Welcome to Uncut with Lucia. Today we are speaking with Dr. Rand McClain. Dr. McClain is a doctor and author of the book Cheering Death, the New Science of Living Longer and Better. So, Dr. Randy, you are very welcome to Uncut with Lucia.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Your new book coming out called Cheating Death. I just love this title before I forget.
That's your attention, right?
Love it. And can you quickly tell us what the book is about?
It talks about the different methods we have for, as I said earlier, turning back the clock, so to speak, ways of having our biological age be lower than our chronological age. And really what that boils down to is being able to enjoy quality of life for a longer period while we're on the planet. Who doesn't want to be able to keep up on the basketball court, for example, with not just their son or daughter, but their grandson or granddaughter? If that's an option, why wouldn't we want to take it? And so the real purpose of the book, and it is selfish too, because it helps all of us in the profession to get this information disseminated to as many people as possible, because not only will the patient help, but the profession itself will help, because as I alluded to earlier, we're going to demand as humans that are in this, population that is helped by medicine, we're going to demand for more discoveries and more inventions and research to be done in these areas, because we want it, and it's going to help us enjoy the time we're here that much more.
Your book covers quite a few different areas where we can increase longevity. Can you quickly give us an example of how we can cheat at death?
Sure. Well, of course, I have to add that we're never ultimately cheating death. It gets us in the end, but we can certainly stave it off for a while. And I think most importantly, stave it off while maintaining good or even great health, which I think is what most people would prefer. There are a lot of different avenues by which we can do that. Choosing one, for example, gene editing, which we can do. We haven't applied it to all the various avenues to which it would be helpful. But someone might have a hereditary disorder that certainly kills you by the time you're, say, in your mid-30s. Huntington's chorea is an example. Devastating, terrible disease where it looks like a lot of cellular waste products build up in the cell. And by using gene editing tools, we can first identify this person and go in and replace. Typically, we'll be replacing some genes with some other genes, some new genes, replacement genes that don't have the disease process associated with it, best way to put it, and they can live a normal life thereafter. I mean, these are things that, you just go, wow, that's out of a science fiction novel, but we have the ability to do some of that today. And when I say some of that, it's because we haven't necessarily refined the process to say, okay, these are the exact sequences that we have to pull out and replace or just pull out. There involves more scientific testing, but I mean, we can do it. We've made, this is silly, but we've made purple dogs that glow. I'm being serious.
Really?
Using gene editing. So we know that we can do this. Making purple dogs that glow is fairly simple compared to some of the more intricate diseases that have developed through evolution that we have to still figure out. But we're knocking them off one by one, and there are some pitfalls along the way. We don't always get it perfected, and we've had some deaths, but for the most part, the science future is looking very, very bright with just one example, gene editing. But in the book, and it's not about the book, but available to us are many, many other options, from stem cell use, which can help regenerate tissues and correct some degenerative diseases, such as multiple sclerosis, for example, another very debilitating disease oftentimes. But with stem cells in the proper dose over a certain amount of time can reverse that process. I mean, that's phenomenal, right? So we've got lots of options. We just have to keep going and get the word out and perfect it.
Exactly. We need to have this kind of therapies now, actually. And Dr. Rand, when it comes to hormone replacement therapy, there is some controversy regarding this form of therapy. I wanted to tell to our audience, what are the benefits of this?
Well, I'm not sure what the controversy is anymore or where it stemmed originally, but there's no controversy to those that have read the most current work. And I would argue that even some of the old works, some of the literature published back in the 50s would support use of hormone replacement therapy to this day. When used properly, it is almost foolproof, with very few side effects and very few risks, if any. I mean, uh, if you had an estrogen sensitive cancer, for example, then you would want to watch out for some of the metabolites of either testosterone or what we refer to as a good estrogen. You just want to make sure that those don't convert to something that might be harmful to an estrogen sensitive cancer. But otherwise, yeah, there really are no contraindications, restrictions to this type of therapy, and it's easily accessible. It's easily applied. We have so many different ways to dose it now. Um, uh, well, gosh, what was the original question? I could go on and on about TRT. The controversy, I don't know where the controversy is, honestly. I think, you start, though, with what are your complaints? And if they do relate to hormone therapy, then use the hormone therapy if applicable. What are those typical complaints? Maybe is the question you're asking me. A decrease in energy. And before I go on, a decrease, meaning don't compare yourself to others, because don't you have a friend that is, maybe even 20 years older than you, and she's bouncing off the walls with energy, and you go, wow, but that can often be a personality trait, and it doesn't mean her hormones are balanced well at all. It's just she was born with or has adapted so that she has lots of expressive energy. You should always compare yourself to you when we're talking about a decrease in energy or libido or a sense of well-being. Testosterone is a natural antidepressant. What makes you feel happy. And we've known that since the 1950s. We had a study that was used to treat women who had refractory depression, and it was used very successfully in reversing the depression in those females. The other one too that doesn't really reflect your personality so much, it's more just basic physiology. Body composition changes at some point in everyone's life. All of a sudden, those workouts and eating strictly and getting enough rest doesn't seem to work as well to keep the fat off or to keep the muscle on. And that's typically when the loss of leverage provided by testosterone is expressed. And that's a hint. Hey, time to go look into this.
Yeah. And talking about testosterone, various symptoms have been attributed to falling levels of testosterone in midlife women, including bone density, decreased muscle mass, as you were telling us now, and depression. Can you tell us about boosters for women? Just some, some idea for our audience. Maybe women are interested about it, because sometimes people think that testosterone is just for men.
No, nothing could be further from the truth. We men and women share the same hormones, just different levels and ratios, we can say. But to use testosterone, you're roughly going to have about, in terms of replacement, about 10% the dose of a male. But you're going to get the same benefits and suffer from the same complaints from deficiency as a male. And it's funny because you mentioned testosterone and its relationship to osteoporosis or osteopenia. Most, even physicians, think that, oh no, that's estrogen's job. That's the only thing that can help with bone density. Well, that's not true at all. Testosterone is very powerful for promoting bone density. I suggest that most people who go on hormone replacement therapy involving testosterone stop taking calcium supplements, because having enough testosterone, you tend to hoard your calcium when you eat it. So you don't need any supplementation. As a matter of fact, for treating osteoporosis or osteopenia, I simply ask my patients to take some additional vitamin D3, and you'll get plenty of calcium, and the testosterone will catalyze the whole process. Now, you still have to do weight-bearing exercises like you would with estrogen, but most people don't even realize that, yeah, testosterone can do the trick better than estrogen.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rand. Thank you. Writing a book can be quite the process. So what has been the most challenging aspect of creating this book? I'm sure you had to research a lot.
You know, the research was actually the most fun. And that's easy for me to say. And that would be the motivating factor for doing it again. The hardest part for me was translating what I found in the literature into a book, into verbiage that would make sense to, we'll say, the layperson, and the assimilation into what we know already and what our issues are. So it's sometimes hard to explain where this particular, say let's say rapamycin, which is a drug that can be used to initiate autophagy, to shut down something called mTOR1. And here I am already struggling to explain it to you, and it's something that doesn't go on and on and on and on. So I'll stop there because we can get too far in the weeds. But the issue I had was trying to convey it in simple language that was concise, and you can see again I'm struggling now, and it was helpful to the layman. And so I hired somebody to help me with that, because I needed the help, and if I could convince this person of what I was saying, then he could put it in his words. And then a lot of what and apparently, and you tell me if I'm wrong because you've written the books yourself, they call it killing your babies. A lot of these things that I spent a lot of time on presenting, they said, no, we're cutting that out. Whoa, wait a minute. I spent so much time, and not only did I spend time, but I thought it was an important part, right? I think it's important to say that, no one's going to care about that, or no one's going to understand it. That was hard, you know? And so in some ways, the book has been pared down significantly, and you go, okay, well, so much of that has been lost, but it's never really lost. You can use it. I can use it, on one-on-one basis to my patients, but in a book form, you're limited, right? You can't just, there's things that have to be explained individually, right?
Yeah.
At least in my case, where, doing it in a general fashion is just too difficult or not worthwhile or won't get the message across. I hope that makes some sense. But that was the hardest part to me, is seeing some of that stuff cut out once you made the big effort, which was a big part of it anyway, to spell it out to begin with.
I know this feeling. It happened to me many times, but I'm sure this book is fantastic because it can open our minds, and we can see that there are so many options.
Along the lines of what you're saying, the value of this sort of program and a book and whatnot is, to have the choices available to you. You are going to be the best steward of your health. You're going to be your best health advocate. And it goes to waste to some degree if you don't know what your options are. So if we can present them through avenues like this, podcasts and books, so people can go, oh, wow, okay, that's an option, then it furthers that most important gem, I would say, that you're in control of your health. No one's going to help you better than you, right? No one's going to care as much as you. And I know that sounds harsh, but you know what I mean. You know you, and you know what you need, and to have those options presented is huge. Certainly very helpful, right?
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Rand, would you like to leave a message to our audience?
Well, a message. I would suppose it's just what I just said, actually. Be your own best health advocate. Take control of your health where you can, because unlike even 20 years ago, for example, we're so rapidly progressing in medicine. Where there weren't options, there now are. And so don't think, oh, well, I looked into that. There's nothing I can do. I'll just have to suffer. No. If there's something that's troubling you, if there's some ailment, or you thought you ran out of options for optimizing health, go back and research again. And again, that's part of the reason for the book, but I'm not the only one writing books that's qualified. There's lots of other authors out there that are making the similar effort to get the word out, so to speak, to the population at large. And so my message would be, go back to the internet sources, the books, to doctors that are considered trusted sources, and reevaluate, because things are changing very, very quickly. And what wasn't available before might be available now, and then some.
Yes. And what I want to say is that let's live longer, let's live well, and let's cheat at death.
Yes, amen.
So, Dr. Randy, where can we find you?
Certainly. My website is PSR, Papa Sierra Romeo, med.com, psrmed.com. And the book can be found on Amazon right now, and it'll be in retail stores. The website gives all the contact information, from our telephones to our different locations. So that's really the best source and the easiest one, I would say.
Wonderful. Actually, I was checking your website, and you offer a lot of information there. So I would like to thank you for your time, for the tips you are giving us, and of course for this wonderful work you are doing. And I hope we can talk again.
I would love that. And thank you for having me. And thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, likewise.